The New Jersey Devils look to stay healthy and build on last year's playoff season. Have they done enough? Trey Matthews of Locked On Devils is here to talk about that and a lot more next on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here. Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On New Jersey Devils, Trey Matthews, and hope the summer is treating you well, Trey. It's been an interesting summer for the Devils. What about their offseason moves has excited you the most?
Oh, well, I'll be honest with you, Gil. I don't think the word excited is the correct terminology. I mean, look, if I had to rate the Devils offseason, I would give them a C. That, if I'm being completely honest, they didn't make the team significantly better, but they didn't make the team significantly worse. I'm pretty neutral about it. If I'm being completely honest, the Devils are still going to be a playoff team because I think you know this as well as anyone. The Metro, not really the strongest division in the NHL, so I'm not really concerned about the Devils' playoff chances. But in terms of being a Stanley Cup contender, look, we've been saying it for the past few seasons. They have the right assets, but I sound like a broken record when I say this. Can it materialize? Can they stay healthy? Can they put everything together to really push this team forward?
You mentioned staying healthy. Let's touch on Jack Hughes because his injuries seem to have derailed the team last year, especially. Will he be ready for training camp and for the regular season?
Yes. Tom Fitzgerald has confirmed that Jack Hughes will be good to go. He said that Brendan Dillon also making significant progress. Luke Hughes, Jesper Bratt, all those guys I just listed had to get some work done over the offseason to repair some injuries. That's how the Devils met their demise during the playoffs. The only player that will not be good to go to begin the season is Jonathan Kovacevic. He is scheduled to go onto the LTIR, and I don't think we're going to see him until like maybe December, January, and who knows, maybe after the Olympic break, depending on how everything unfolds. But Jonathan Kovacevic is the only Devils player who is right now not slated to begin the season.
Now, you mentioned Luke Hughes, and there is a little contract situation going on. Why don't you update us on that?
Yeah, so Luke Hughes, his entry-level contract has expired. The good news is, and I don't know if this is good news for other NHL teams, he cannot be given an offer sheet by other teams. So that's why you're not hearing arbitration, things like that. The Devils still have that kind of power. The problem is it still has not come into fruition. And we're now over 40 days, Gil, since Tom Fitzgerald spoke to the media and told us that re-signing Luke Hughes was his main priority. Look, I've traveled to Europe. I have moved out of my apartment in Florida. And despite all of that, still nothing. So I have made more moves than Tom Fitzgerald has when it comes to Luke. So, yeah, that's where we're at right now, but I'm not concerned about it. It will get done. Devils still have that kind of power, but yeah, I mean, it's just incredible that 40 plus days later, there's still no contract extension for Luke Hughes.
Is it straight up about money at this point?
It could be. I mean, look, I don't want the Devils to sign him to a bridge deal. Otherwise, you're going to put yourself into a very uncomfortable position because, believe it or not, Captain Nico Hischier, he only has 2 years remaining on his contract. So he will become a UFA. And if you re-sign Luke Hughes to a bridge deal, here are your problems. Now you got to worry about Luke. You got to worry about Nico. I think the Devils want to put themselves in the running for Quinn Hughes when he becomes a UFA in 2027. And to add to that, if Luke develops the way that we anticipate, he could demand even more money. So you got to lock him up long-term, no bridge deals. His contract, it could follow a similar outline as Brock Faber. Maybe we'll see how that comes to be. But for right now, Luke Hughes still does not have a contract, but I'm not really going to put any fear out there because he will be a Devil to start next season.
I've heard some trade rumors about Andre Palat. Anything you can tell us about where that's at and what his future looks like with the team?
The Devils are looking to clear some cap, and I think they want to move on from Palat because he's a solid player, a great forechecker, elevates his game come playoff time, but he is not worth $6 million annually. So I think the Devils are trying to unload that contract, and they're trying to take a playbook out of the Rangers front office, which is how do you get rid of guys that have big time contracts to clear up some cap. But unfortunately, no luck. And it's worth mentioning that Palat does have trade protection. He has a modified no movement clause. So he has 10 teams that he doesn't want to be dealt to. And some of the teams over the offseason that were looking to reach the cap floor, not the cap ceiling, the cap floor, you got like Chicago, Anaheim, I believe San Jose. But for Palat, he's only played on playoff caliber teams. And no disrespect to any of those teams that I just listed, but I don't think a multi-time champion like Andre Palat wants to go to a team that is still rebuilding and still a few years removed from getting back to the playoffs. And look, I wouldn't mind being dealt to California if I'm Andre Palat, but that's just me, or going to an original 6 team like Chicago. But I'm not in his shoes. I get it. He probably wants to still win despite being on the other side of his better days. But for right now, Andre Palat still remains a member of the Devils. And this is just me speculating, but as soon as the Luke Hughes extension comes to fruition, I think what you see is going to be the 2025-2026 New Jersey Devils roster.
Do you think they could maybe try to retain some salary to deal Palat?
I mean, I think they could. I mean, look, I know the Rangers, they unloaded some big contracts the last few months, and I don't think they had to retain much, if any. But for the Devils, look, if you're trying to get rid of Palat, I'm all for it. But if you got to retain, then to sweeten the deal, I would do it. But here we are. Andre Palat, still a member of the Devils. No disrespect to him. Definitely a underrated asset on the Lightning's championship runs. But based on what we were talking about over at Pucks and Pitchforks, which is the site I work at, I think Andre Palat is making it a little difficult because of the trade protection that he has.
So what are your biggest concerns about this team with training camp less than a month away?
I think my biggest concern is the same concern that I've had the past few years. Can this team stay healthy? That's just the big thing, because that's what ended them during the playoffs. Jack Hughes went down shortly before the trade deadline. So it was just like, well, Devils just lost their star player. So are they going to become buyers? They're not going to become sellers. What do? They get some solid additions, but nothing to really jump out of your seat about. And come the playoffs, they lost Luke Hughes. They lost Brendan Dillon. They had to put their trust in Jonas Siegenthaler and Dougie Hamilton, who were also trying to recover from their respective injuries. They put a lot of pressure on Jacob Markstrom's shoulders. The thing that I just need to see from the Devils is please stay healthy. Jack has got to appear in at least 75 games this year. That's all I'm asking for, because if he suffers another big shoulder injury, you might need to have an uncomfortable conversation. But that's worst case scenario. I'm not even going to talk even more about it because I don't want to even manifest that.
Totally understand that. Trey, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
You can find me on X at TreyMatt4. You can also find the show on X at Locked On Devils. You can listen to Locked On Devils wherever you get your podcast from. You can also watch it on YouTube. Closing in on 3,000 subscribers, a few hundred away. Would love some help. But yeah, that's where you can find my materials. You can also view my written work on Fansided with Pucks and Pitchforks.
All right, Trey, thanks so much.
Thank you, Gil.
Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those alone saved me money every month. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL.